A question I get from a lot of my clients when I first meet with them after a car accident in Florida is who's going to pay my medical bills after this accident? That's usually the number one thing people are concerned about if they've been injured in an accident. Well, Florida is called a no-fault state, and what that means is regardless of who's at fault for the accident, your own insurance is going to pay your first $10,000 in medical expenses at a rate of 80%. So the 20% that's not covered by your PIP is what's going to be part of the claim you're going to make against the at-fault driver, assuming the other person that caused the accident was at fault. So let's talk about that. Let's say you've got a hospital bill of $1,000. And I promise you, hospital bills are going to be a lot more than $1,000. But for math, let's use $1,000. Your PIP, your personal injury protection coverage under your own auto insurance, is going to pay 80% or $800 of that bill. So that leaves a balance of $200, and that's part of the claim you're going to make against the other driver's bodily injury liability coverage. What happens if they don't have bodily injury liability coverage? In that case, you're limited to your own PIP if you don't have something called coverage. And coverage is uninsured motorist coverage. And that will pay your claim if you're hit by somebody, it's their fault, they caused the accident, and they don't have any liability coverage, or they don't have enough liability coverage. Because about 20% of Florida drivers don't have any insurance at all, this coverage is super, super important. It's also important that we join most of the other states in the country and pass mandatory bodily injury liability coverage, so that mandatory bodily injury liability coverage would be required on everyone's auto insurance policy. Currently, the only thing required under Florida law is personal injury protection and property damage liability, which just pays for the damage to the other person's vehicle if you're at fault for the accident. But let's take liability coverage out of the question. PIP is going to pay up to $10,000 of your medical expenses at a rate of 80%. And then after that, anything above $10,000 is part of the claim you're going to make against the other driver's bodily injury liability coverage. Something else that comes up almost every year in the Florida legislature, it seems, over the past few years, is should we get rid of Florida's PIP law? What that would mean is if we got rid of PIP, we would no longer be a no-fault state, and instead, everyone would be required to have mandatory liability coverage. $25,000 is usually the amount that's discussed. If everyone carried their own liability coverage, it would create a system that's based on if you're at fault, you pay for the accident, instead of what we currently have, which is even if you didn't cause the accident, you've got to use your own PIP to pay your first $10,000 in medical bills.